On today's Toy Spot, we're going to be looking at the convention-exclusive Justice League Unlimited fan collection, Giganta. Giganta seemed like a pretty straightforward figure, a very obvious choice. Those not familiar with a 10-inch, or in this case an 8-inch to 4 3/4 inch figure, most figures tend to be created, and I'll just move this camera up here, most figures tend to be created in a large scale figure. And then what they do for smaller figures, I'll just move the lighting a bit out of the way, what they tend to do with smaller figures is really they just take the large mold and they shrink it down. So it's very easy for most manufacturers to create a smaller scale and a larger scale figure utilizing the exact same mold. It does, however, look in this case that Giganta has a different mold both in the smaller version than to the larger version. But we'll get into that as we do the review. But a very obvious choice, if you ask me, to release this figure. And if you collected Justice League Unlimited figures, and if you wanted to put together, at least in the case of the Secret Society, the one key missing character was Giganta. And, well, to release a pack such as this was, in my opinion, a no-brainer, because then you could utilize both molds. Thank goodness, though, it was eventually released as a convention exclusive, and as you can see, down below, look at the packaging first. Down below you see a picture of Giganta, fan collection. Ooh, Giganta's angry there. And really nice packaging too. As you can see, it looks like she's encased in glass, and she's kind of smashed herself through, or she's trying to smash through the glass here. And that even carries over at the top here. You'll also notice it says open from bottom. Open from bottom. The packaging on the back here is a metallic, so the light is playing is doing some horrible things to this packaging. It's burning my eyes. But the read-up on Giganta says, originally a member of Gorilla Grodd's secret society, Giganta gains great strength when she uses her powers to grow to superhuman size. When Gorilla Grodd reformed his gang into the Legion of Doom, Giganta followed, becoming a key member in his army of villains. Other fan project or fan collections coming, which by now have already been released. We were getting what we never thought we'd ever see. We got a Question, a Captain Atom, and a Galadia figure. Down below it, you won't probably be able to see it, but down below it shows instructions on how you can actually set up the diorama. Very similar actually to Lobo. You can actually take the packaging out and fold it open so that you actually have a standee for the figure. So there you go. Packaging is aside. What we'll do is we'll get this opened up and we will get a better look at Giganta. So stay tuned, guys. There is so much more to come. I don't even want to spoil the surprise. You're gonna have to stay tuned. And the real shame about this 2-pack was the way that they were actually fastened into the package. Very hard to get out. And I think I actually said this about the Lobo 2-pack, or the Lobo pack as well. For something where they want you to use the back of the box or the back of the card as a diorama, they sure did a horrible job of putting the figures in. Between the clear elastics that were holding these figures and the actual clear plastic stands and backings, I ripped most of the package taking these two figures out. So I won't show you guys the backdrop, unfortunately, for them, but I will show you the figures. And you'll notice that my hand is here, and the reason for it is this figure will not stand at all. In fact, neither figure will stand very well at all. For one thing, this one doesn't have very much posability to it. Her legs are very close together, and she's very back heavy. All those equal a figure that's going to fall over the moment. Yeah, see, the moment I let go. This figure is a little easier, but again, being that she's standing the way that she is, she does not want to stand. Needless to say, what we'll do is we'll put the larger Giganta down, and we'll look at the smaller Giganta. And the smaller Giganta uses the same mold, I believe, as the same mold as like the Huntress. The Black Canary uses, I think, the lower, most of the torso except for the bent arm, but a very commonly used female mold, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it doesn't look like they've used the same mold. I mean, they've obviously applied, a different head, the dress and everything else over top. As well, this dress is a rubbery plastic. I just touched her boob. But it's a rubbery plastic. They've just really applied it over top of the mold of the regular female mold. The head is very nice, actually. It does look like Giganta. And the interesting thing as well, while I commented before, if I can get the camera up here, what I commented before with the packaging was that for most part, it seems usually that, bring this up a bit more, it seems usually that there we go, that they use the exact same face. It does look like it's almost the same face. You know what, it might be. I was going to say the chin looks slightly more rounded on the smaller scale figure. But at the end of the day, it does look like it's the same mold. So they have actually used the exact same mold. The only difference is they didn't use different arms, and they put different legs on her. And I believe for the larger 8-inch, they might have almost even used a Wonder Woman body, and they just put the rubbery outfit on her. Putting her back down, the smaller scale Giganta, you're going to actually find that I'm moving the camera a lot in this review, unfortunately. The smaller Giganta is very nicely detailed, nicely sculpted. She's got really large hair. So much so that both on the smaller and on the larger scale Giganta, you're not going to move her head. You can move it slightly, but that's it. She has articulation in the shoulders. She also has articulation in the legs, but you get that same problem that has been plaguing all female molded figures, is the way that they sculpt the legs. You can either have the legs straight out, or you can have them straight. So having her sitting in anything makes it next to impossible. But that aside, a nice looking figure. And what I'll do is I'll bring in Gorilla Grodd, which I may or may not have done a review of and posted this before you see this review here. Put the Gorilla Grodd down, and we'll put Giganta next to it. Not quite to scale to the cartoon. I believe Giganta was just a slight bit taller in the cartoon than Gorilla Grodd. Certainly to scale, being that they've used the same mold as the other female bodies, she is smaller. Not necessarily it's a bad thing, but we'll move Gorilla Grodd out of the way. We'll move the smaller Giganta out of the way, and we'll look at the large Giganta. And as I'm corrected by now, it does seem like it is the exact same head sculpt. And same problem as well, you can't really move her head just because of the way her hair is. The hair, unlike the Wonder Woman, is not attached to her body. So you can move it, but it's not going anywhere though, just because I mean, the back of her hair is this large, heavy piece of plastic. It is actually quite heavy if you had the figure in person. She also has articulation in the shoulders, and she also has articulation in the legs. Now, being that this figure has slightly different legs, she doesn't quite have the same problem as the smaller Giganta, but her legs I mean, you can get them further back, but to bring them forward, she does this weird kind of, that she's showing off her calves. She's like, hey, look at those calves. I think one of the hardest things to probably get past if you're a male collector is the fact that this particular figure kind of feels like a Barbie doll. Certainly she isn't, and if you've collected the other 8-inch size Justice League figures, then this shouldn't be too much of a problem, but she is fairly rare now actually to find on eBay, and for when you do find her, she might actually be pretty pricey, but well worth picking up. And actually it's well worth picking up if much like myself, you're trying to put together the teams from the Justice League cartoon. And we've actually been quite blessed that we've received pretty much all the figures from the Secret Society and the Injustice League. The only notable figure that's missing, if you were collecting the Secret Society, is Clayface. We've already received, of course, we got the Gorilla Grodd, which I'll bring in again. But we've got the Gorilla Grodd. We've got Giganta. We've got, trying to think of who else was in it. Sinestro. We've got Shade. I want to say Star Sapphire, but I think she was only in the Injustice League. But yeah, the only one that's really missing from the Secret Society now is Clayface. You can certainly use the Clayface from the Batman animated series. It's not really quite, it's not quite dead on. So I will say, Mattel, if you're listening, you've already released characters such as Bane, Harlequin, you've released the Clock King, and you released, I'm trying to remember the fourth character, Scarecrow. You've already released those Gotham villains. It would be very nice if you could release a Clayface. Once released a Justice League Unlimited Clayface, we have a full Secret Society, and I think that's a fantastic idea. Let's hope it happens. Cross your fingers. If it doesn't, however, well, what we ultimately will be left with is the Clayface from the animated series. Needless to say, looking at the Giganta, a very nice figure, both the larger and the smaller scale. It's worth picking up if, again, much like me, you want to fill out the team characters from the animated series. I would give this figure a 7, and I would say it's well worth picking up. I hope you guys enjoyed it. That was a toy spot on the convention exclusive Giganta. And I'll see you guys next time for another toy spot. Alright, just as a quick add-on to this video that I finished shooting, wouldn't you know it, as I was taking apart the packaging, I did actually find out that they included stands. They include stands for both the smaller scale Giganta as well as the larger scale. For those who have bought this package, and you're probably saying to yourself the same thing, how come they didn't come with stands? Check actually underneath the cardboard base that these figures were standing on. There's actually a little clear baggie that featured both bases. I originally wasn't even going to add this video, but I had a sinking suspicion that somebody was going to comment down below and say, hey man, did you actually know there's bases included in this set? So I figured, I'll beat you to it. I would just add this video to the end of the review. So yes, in fact, while the Giganta really doesn't stand very well, the fact that they have included stands certainly resolves that issue. Still a nice set to pick up, and so much nicer now to know that they've included bases. So just a little add-on to this video. Still a great set to pick up, guys. That was the 2-pack of the smaller Giganta and the larger Giganta, now with bases. So I'll see you guys next time.